All right, these are my starting point guard rankings for the 2024-2025 NBA season. These videos were made before the first few games started, so I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but the starting lineups could have changed. The depth charts could have changed from the time of me making the video versus the time it got uploaded, so there could be a few discrepancies, but I'm not too worried about that. Also, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about each player. I'm recording a bunch of videos in one day, kind of trying to just put them out for you guys. So I'm not going to talk too much about each ranking. Start off with number 30, Keyonte George for the Jazz, who's pretty good last year. I think he's going to be pretty solid this year, just not a great starting point guard. Number 29, Mike Conley. He was at number 18 last year. I think it's going to fall off quite a bit. Timberwolves just have a lot more help around him, so I don't think he's going to be as needed, and he's getting up there in age. Number 28, Dennis Schroeder. He's going to be about the same player he was last year. The Nets need a lot of scoring. He's probably going to score quite a bit, but he's not going to do much outside of that. Number 27, Jordan Poole. He was number 22 last year as a shooting guard. He's going to come back to point guard this year. I think he's going to be pretty solid at scoring the ball, but again, he's not very efficient when he does so, and his defense kind of sucks. Number 26, Tyus Jones. He should be a really good piece here for the Phoenix Suns team, but overall, still don't think he's going to be, like that good, but he's going to be a solid starting point guard here for this team. Number 25, Chris Paul. He was not very good last year. He came off the bench for the Warriors, and he was certainly the worst player he's ever been. I think he's going to be a little bit better this year. He's not going to use a lot. He's not going to do a lot of scoring, but he should have a lot of assists here to Victor Wembanyama. He's going to be a solid starting point guard in this league, just certainly nowhere near where he was a couple of years ago in Phoenix, or certainly before that. Number 24, Josh Giddey. He was a number 19 as a shooting guard last year. He's going to be a little bit worse than that as a point guard, but I do think he's going to have a pretty good role here in Chicago. I just don't think he's going to be a great player, but he's going to be better at times, certainly than he was in the postseason for the Thunder. Number 23 here, Scoot Henderson for the Blazers. He was at 28 last year. I think it's going to improve quite a bit this year, but not, to anywhere near an all-star level player. I still think he can be an all-star in the future, but this year, certainly not that year for the big jump for me. 22, Terry Rozier. Got him at the same spot he was last year. I mean, he's a good player. He's a good scorer. He can defend pretty well. He's going to be really good being on this Miami Heat team for a whole year. Next up, for number 21, Jalen Suggs for the Magic. I have him up a couple spots from where he was last year. I mean, he's still fairly young, so he's going to be progressing a little bit, but not too much. He's a solid scorer, one of the best defenders in the league. Number 20, D'Angelo Russell for the Lakers. Got him in the same spot again. Don't expect too much different from him. He's going to be a good scorer, inefficient at times, but still a really solid player here for the Lakers. Number 19, Jrue Holiday for the Celtics. Have him moving down a couple of spots. He's a year older. The Celtics have more depth this year, so he's going to have to do a little bit less, in my opinion. He's still a really, really good player here for the Celtics. Number 18, Immanuel Quickley. I have him moving up a couple spots. He's probably going to score even more than he did last year. I think he's a really, really good player for this Toronto Raptors team. He's going to score probably close to 20-plus points a game pretty efficiently. Solid defender as well. He's a really good player, and I love him. I love his game a lot. Number 17, Fred VanVleet for the Rockets. He's a solid scorer, pretty inefficient. I don't expect him to do much different than he did last season here for the Houston Rockets. Number 16, Darius Garland. He was at 19 last year. Have him moving up a couple spots. I think he's going to improve slightly from where he was last year. Last year was a down year. I think this year he moves it up quite a bit, but still not going to be not going to be a top 10 point guard in the league, but I think he's going to be better than he was last year, moving up here to, right in the middle here for starting point guards. Number 15, Monte Murray. He was number 5 as a shooting guard last year, but the shooting guard pool last year was pretty poor. So he's going to move down quite a bit here as a point guard here in New Orleans, but I still think he's really, really good. Probably averages 20 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds at bare minimum. He's still a very, very good player. Number 14, Cade Cunningham for the Pistons. I had him at 15 last year. I think he improves a little bit here this year. He's not going to improve too much because he's already been a pretty solid point guard. The only way he's going to improve a lot is if he starts being like a high volume 3-point shooter, which he has not been up to this point. But if he can get that into his game, he can easily be a top 10 point guard this year. Number 13, come down a couple spots. He usually gets higher than he started at the year because of his postseason performances. But to start the regular season here, I'm going to have him down at 13. Very easily could crack into the top 10 if he has another good postseason run. Number 12, James Harden's going to drop a couple of spots here. He actually might be better than number 10, depending on how much Kawhi Leonard plays or if he does at all, because James Harden could have a very, very big workload here this season and put up really, really good numbers and be looked at as a top 7 point guard this year pretty easily, depending on if Kawhi is going to play or not and the kind of workload James Harden undergoes. Number 11, LaMelo Ball. He was not ranked last year because he was injured. I think he's going to be borderline top 10 point guard this year. He's been a borderline top 10 the last couple of years when he's healthy. I think number 11 is a pretty safe spot for him. He's a really good player. He just needs to stay healthy. Number 10, Tyrese Maxey for the Sixers. I think he's going to drop a couple of spots compared to last year. They did add Paul George, which is going to take a lot of the pressure off from Tyrese Maxey. He's a great secondary ball handler in Paul George. So Maxey's role is going to be a little bit diminished, but he's still going to be a really good, efficient scorer here for the Sixers. Number 9, Trae Young. I think he moves up a couple of spots. He does not have DeJounte Murray as a secondary ball handler, so he's going to have a lot more pressure on himself. He's going to be more of a focal point of this offense rather than splitting some ball handling duties with DeJounte Murray. It's going to be mainly Trae Young here, so he's going to have the ball in his hands more often and have a better season than he did last year, in my opinion. Number 8, De'Aaron Fox. He's going to be right around the same type of player he was last year. I haven't moved up one spot, but not too much different. He's going to average probably 27 points, 7 assists, 5 or so rebounds. He's still a really, really good player. One of the best defending guards in the league as well. Number 7, Damian Lillard. Again, he's not going to be the same player he was in Portland. Last year was a down year for him. I don't expect him to, it wasn't a horrible year, obviously. It was still a really good year, just a down year for Damian Lillard standards. I think he's going to be right around the same type of player he was last season. Number 6, Tyrese Halliburton. I had him ranked one spot below Damian Lillard last year. I expect Tyrese Halliburton to take a little bit of a leap, and I expect Damian Lillard to stay stagnant. So that's the only reason why I'm going to flip these two guys, is because Halliburton, I think, gets a little bit better, and Dame, I think, stays the same. Number 5, Jalen Brunson's going to drop one spot. He's not going to have to do as much as he did last year. That's just a fact. So I don't think he's going to be, a top 4 point guard. I think number 5 is about the highest he can go right now, considering he's not going to have to average 30 points a game because they have so much other talent around him this year. Number 4, Ja Morant. Also, he was injured last year, so he has to get back into these rankings. I think he's a better player. I think he's going to be a better player than Jalen Brunson this year. Ja Morant easily can average 30 points a game. He is that good if he's healthy. Number 3, Stephen Curry. He was number 5 last year. He definitely had a down year. This year, I think he's going to be back up to a top 3 point guard. He's going to have to do a lot for this Golden State Warriors team. So I think he's going to have to step up and be a top 3 point guard again this year. Number 2, I got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I had him at number 1 last year. You can kind of guess who number 1 is, but Shai at number 2, he's going to average close to 30-plus points again. One of the best two-way players in the league. He's an absolute phenomenal player. He's going to be an MVP candidate. I just cannot put him over number 1 of Luka Doncic. I put Shai over Luka last season. That was mainly because the postseason struggles from Luka. Even though Luka did make the NBA Finals, Shai had a better postseason run than Luka, so that's why I put Shai over Luka. But still, Luka, I think this year is going to be even better than he was last year. I think he's going to win MVP probably, and I think he's going to be the best point guard in the league, obviously. So yeah, that's going to be for the video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check back next week, or actually, I guess tomorrow probably, for another positional ranking.